What a Big East opener we had last night. We're going to talk about the aftermath. You're locked on.
You are Locked On Uconn, your daily podcast on the UConn Huskies, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Thanks for making Locked On Uconn your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Before we dive into today's show, just want to take a moment to say how thankful we are for all of you for helping us grow this podcast. Started in March, and we are super excited about where this will go. We're the only podcast in the country that does a daily show covering both the men and women's basketball, the absolute basketball capital of the world. We're thrilled to bring you the coverage you deserve. To show that gratitude, we're giving back. We're donating 10% of our revenue to Husky Ticket Project, helping send kids to all these games. Like I'm sure we had some people there last night watching the Xavier game. We're also making monthly donations to Bleeding Blue for Good, supporting NIL initiatives that make a difference. And if you're enjoying the show, take a moment to subscribe, click, follow, wherever you listen. Leave us a review, even if it's a bad one. We don't care. It's all engagement. Thanks again for making Locked On UConn your first listen every day. Today's episode is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. Yeah, it's here. You don't want to miss a moment of the action. The College Football Playoff presented by Allstate begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. We bring to the program a guy who is going to be excited about that College Football Playoff with his Nittany Lions playing, Jeff D. Lowe of Barstool. You guys know him. The Surviving Barstool, the dozen trivia. Jeff? We had fun last night.
We'll be there on Saturday.
Absolutely, man. We had fun watching this game.
I didn't even watch the final. We have Surviving Barstool airing. It was easily the most controversial episode with my involvement, and it was happening right with 20 seconds left in that game, or 9 seconds left when they had the ball, and I'm like, I don't got time for this right now. I was like, I got to deal with the blowback of my job, and I'm like, just don't lose the buzzer right now. And they didn't, and I kind of was like checking it a little bit, so I finally got to watch the final 3 minutes in overtime afterwards. Also, sorry, I got these like Tony Stark. They're blue light. I got a mic right now, so I got to look at Tony Stark for a little bit. But yeah, no, it was wins in the Big East. A win's a win, especially when they have that's their first home Big East opening win in 21 years.
Yeah, they're 1-5 in Hurley's. And by the way, we didn't tweet anything out. We talked about it on the pod. We talked about the record, but I guess a couple of social media of people on UConn Twitter posted the Dan's record in opening, and he opened his presser with, by the way, you should unfollow anybody who tried to speak that into existence that we were going to lose our home opener because we've had trouble in the past.
More titles than home opening than Big East opening. That's crazy.
But it was a thing under Ollie and Calhoun too. Like it literally goes back to 1979. They're 19-26 since 1979 80 season. It's insane. I hate trends and except for a couple unless it's like within like a 4-year, but over that time, like that doesn't mean anything. But it is one of those things where you can't deny that. It just doesn't make sense. Well, and to that same point, why do you think we're about the same age? I'm a little older than you, but like Big East play always seems to be, no matter unless you have like a DePaul year or a Georgetown year from a couple years ago, it just feels like it's always competitive. Why do you feel like even last night with Xavier, Fremantle's out their best player? We obviously didn't have Sampson. Why is it always a war?
I mean, are we even the best example of that last night? Look at you think you have a kid in Maddox who shoots like 30%. I mean, he looked like Steph Curry.
Yeah, it's crazy to me. It's and I get it, man. It's matchup based, right? You have Creighton beats Kansas, then Georgetown crushes Creighton. Like, it's such a wild world. It's like we did what's that transformative property we were talking about? UConn football should be number one because they were competitive with Duke, who beat such and such. It's like you can't do it, but it makes for fun conversation. I don't know, man. Like I think the Big East just brings a different intensity once it's conference play, where the physicality takes over, and then it's about playmaking. And I was really proud of the team. They were down 69-64. Tie it up, and then the way they handled overtime for me showed that they have what it takes to be a good team, because they just wore them down. And so to potentially kind of withstand a game where a team shoots 55, almost 55% from three, and you still win. Like, what if you're Sean Miller? What do you tell your team after you play a game like this and you walk away with an L?
And I think a big thing too with this conference, and you heard it in Sean Miller's press conference, like talking about Caravan. People can say what they want about Hurley. Hurley is always complimentary of like legends in the Big East. Like, look at last year with what's his face with Providence on their last game against them. What's his face?
You're talking about Kim English?
No, the kid who left after last year with the long hair. Why am I blanking?
Carter, Devin Carter.
Yes. I kept on to call him Bryce. Yeah, no, I'm combining two actual Providence players. Like, there is a respect level in the Big East, and I'm not saying other conferences don't have that, but outside of the doofy ass Ed Coolies of the world, like I just don't think you're going to see a team like Greg McDermott. Granted, they lost last night, but like Greg McDermott is not going to have his team go into like a shit bag like DePaul and be like, who cares? Like, they're going to respect that. Like, there's a respect level in the Big East from coaches, for the most part, almost everyone, and players, that I think is a big reason why the teams almost always, for the most part, step up to the occasion and play everybody tough, good or not. Like, I just think, like, you see the respect level with Shaka and Hurley, like, after, like, it just, like, they just, like, they get it with each other, and they're never going to, like, I mean, great example. Fucking, sorry, I swore I wasn't to swear. Sorry.
I'll cut it. You're good.
Great example. Doug Gottlieb.
Yeah.
Just gross disrespect for a D2 school that he lost to. You would never, again, maybe I said Ed Cooley, who does some dumb stuff. You wouldn't hear that from these Big East coaches. Like,
you want to hear a funny Doug Gottlieb story before we go on to the next segment?
Oh, go for I don't even hate Doug Gottlieb.
Listen, this was like 6 years ago. I'm covering like mid-major basketball. I'm paying attention to everything. It's something stupid. So I tweeted out, he said something. I was in mentions, and I just said, man, like, because people were getting in on him about his, credit card stealing thing from when he was a kid. And I made a comment like, Doug would be selling insurance, and like I think I said Omaha if it wasn't for his dad's influence, whatever. And he literally DM'd me and was like, hey, dude, what's going on? Like, why do you care so much? And I was just like, bro, you're literally messaging. I had like 50 followers. I was like, why are you worried about what I think? And then he like said some, I think I still have it. And then he said something, and then he just blocked me.
He's had a long tiff with one of our employees, Rico Bosco. And we did a trivia, all college hoops trivia thing a couple years ago. I think it was Big Cat, Mark Titus was on, I think a couple other people. And we brought in Gottlieb as a surprise to take on Rico. And they went back and forth. And Rico through the credit card. It's if you look it up on YouTube, it's very funny to watch, because like he actually takes some of the hits and like they went at it. But cool. Again, that comment's crazy to call it nobody you. Like, you just wouldn't see that with Big East coaches. So that's why, yes, I'd like them to roll the Big East. And I was like, I think they're going to roll the Big East. I was obviously already wrong, but like, you're also not upset with a game like that last night.
Absolutely not. No.
That's a good win. That's a great win in the Big East.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about, was that bad defense or just great offense last night? We're going to talk about that and plus a lot more after this. College football. It's that time of year, guys. The college football playoff is back in the newly expanded 12-team format, guaranteed to be bigger and better than ever, bringing you all the hard-hitting and high-flying excitement that you love. TNT Sports coverage of the College Football Playoff begins December 21st, starting with the College Football Playoff show presented by AT&T at 11 a.m. Eastern, leading into our first matchup, the SMU Mustangs, battling our friend Jeff's Penn State Nittany Lions at noon. Then the Clemson Tigers look to upset Texas in a showdown at 4 p.m. Eastern time. Don't miss a moment of the action. Watch the College Football Playoff presented by Allstate live on TNT, True TV, TBS, and Max. All right, welcome back to Locked On Uconn with your host here, Mark Zanetto. I'm with Barstool Sports' Jeff D. Lowe. Hey, man, that game last night, I said this on the live show. Obviously, you were super busy, so I didn't expect you to jump on that. But we kind of literally pinpointed the time when Xavier started to pick up their play, and it was the 10:38 mark of the first half. It's 20-10. Liam McNeely picks up his second foul. He gets out of the game. when he's not in the game, and if solo ball isn't being assertive, they look rudderless on offense, and the defense. Not that Liam McNeely's Steph Castle defensively or anything like that, but the defense, because of his, without having his lack of size, it's not that they played poorly, in my opinion. It's that there was this little lapse coupled with a drought that allowed Xavier to get into this game and can kind of create the confidence that they needed to then just have this incredible shooting night that was mind-boggling from like Maddox, Conley, all these guys. Like, did you see that, or were you in the camp of this defense has been bad since Maui? It continues to be bad.
No, because they, I mean, if you told me to lean one way or the other, I would still say they're bad, but I don't think they're what they were in Maui. I mean, Maui, they were atrocious.
Right.
And a little bit of it was luck. There was a luck variance against them where, I mean, Memphis was absolutely slop in that first game. But there's definitely like I thought last night was a bit of a step back. I think there's a lot of factors at play. Obviously, Sampson not playing, that throws everything off, rotations, all that. It's tough for me because I like what I'm seeing intensity-wise a lot more. Like, I actually would tell you so I would say they're bad, but then to play devil's advocate, if you told me how I come away from last night, I would still say I'm on the upwards trajectory of how I feel about the defense. I think they'll get there. They were very good defensively last year, right? Like, am I nuts for thinking that off the top they were not very good to start?
It took them a little bit, but they got to. They were better because, and his play is so underrated. Like Donovan Clingan, I've been talking about this on Twitter all day, essentially with people that are like, we still lead the country in blocks, right? That's a crazy stat right now. But what we don't lead the country in is people that drive into the lane and go, I'm not going to shoot because you have 7'3" Donovan Clingan there. Like, he deterred so much just by his presence, and we don't have that. But we do have, we missed him last night, a guy like Sampson who plays incredible help side defense when guys drive in and block shots that way. Terrace was doing that last night. So to me, it's more about, it's such a different team. Sometimes it's hard for our brains to kind of like process that because we just saw this dominant defensive team last year. And now this, you kind of have to just be a little patient, as Dan is saying.
Yeah, I think they're going to get there. I do. I don't think they're going to be as good as last year, and that's not even like a realistic thing to, like you just said, you don't have Donovan Clingan. Maybe next year when they have a 7-footer, it's a different story. Mm-hmm. But I do think they're going to get there because for me, I'm not saying it's an effort thing, but there is just a different intensity level right now. I just don't think they're in their right spots. I think they're just doing some things, maybe overhelping. I don't know. But there is a stark difference between what you're seeing now and what you're seeing in Maui. I hate Maui. I hope they never go back to a tournament like that again, ever.
Well, they're not. Don't worry.
I know he said they're not going to. Like, that was such a
and also and this is for all the people that will be in my mentions later saying, Dan Hurley's a baby. We were talking about this 2 weeks before he said that in Maui. He just reiterated it. So get your facts straight.
I wish they would have gone last year. I wish last year's team would have been there. That's a different story. I actually wish that, I know they do it years out. I wish they'd invite Went to like more experience. Like, I would have never wanted an inexperienced team to be there. It just does. It's awful. But I think last night was still a little mix of, I mean, the way Xavier shot was just insanity. And some are open shots, but some of them you're like, what on earth? Like, what do you even do?
Yeah, no. And this is a great point. I have amended my thought of whether this was bad defense or just great offense, because I woke up this morning and I was having coffee and I was listening to the Hurley press conference. I don't digest it after the game. I listened to it the next day. And so as he got into it, I forget which beat reporter asked him a question. He essentially said that shot making tonight was at NBA level. He's like, because, and this is the stat that I've been telling everybody. They had 29 field goals made. I think 13 of them were threes on only 9 assists. So that is iso ball, creating your own shot. And that is not us not closing out, not doing great, playing great defense like we did in Maui, even though Memphis was shooting out of their minds. And by the way, Memphis is pretty good, by the way. So like, I just think that there's an element, like you said, of the luck factor that wasn't on our side in Maui. It kind of felt like that last night. I literally had to go upstairs into my office because I was scaring our children because I was losing my mind at all these crazy shots that they were hitting. So I think it was just great offense, not bad defense.
It was. They also, both teams were nuts on the free throw line, missed combined 4. So Yeah, I don't like. And again, they're not a horrible team. It's not a bad Xavier team. They're clearly like a decent team.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we'll see how they come in they fare in the coming weeks against some teams that aren't that great. And I think they're going to reach that level where they play at least serviceable enough defense, because I do think the offense is good. They have these weird droughts. They have some spells, but I think that'll be figured out as well. But I'm not as like in a spiral over the defense like I was 2 weeks ago. Like I see the signs now, which is huge. That's kind of all I could. It's all I could hope for. And then if you're getting the wins on top of it, great.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take one more quick break, and then I'm going to ask Jeff if he still thinks this UConn team is a Final Four contender when we get back from the break. Have you ever found yourself paying for subscriptions you didn't even know you had? That was me not too long ago. I had a couple subscriptions quietly draining my wallet, and I had no idea. Then I found Rocket Money, and it was like having a personal finance assistant in my pocket. It found those unwanted subscriptions and canceled them in just a few taps. Rocket Money is a personal finance app that does it all. It helps you find and cancel unwanted subscriptions, monitors your spending, and even works to lower your bills, all in one place. Whether you're tracking your spending habits or saving towards a goal, Rocket Money makes it easy. With over 5 million users and $500 million in money saved in canceled subscriptions, Rocket Money members save up to $740 a year when they use all the app's premium features. For me, the subscription tracker has been a lifesaver. I've canceled services I wasn't even using anymore, and then savings add up fast. Plus, there's a goals feature that you can use to help set up automatically setting aside money for future budgeting, whether you're going on vacation or doing something like that. And it's super stress-free. So why wait? Cancel your unwanted subscriptions and start reaching your financial goals faster with Rocket Money. Go to rocketmoney.com/lockedon today. That's rocketmoney.com/lockedon. Save money and take control with Rocket Money. It's our good friends at GameTime. The holidays are a perfect time to create lasting memories with people you care about. And for me, there's nothing better than sharing the joy of live events this season or giving it as a gift. I'll never forget taking my family to some basketball games down here in North Carolina last December, because even if it wasn't UConn, it's still great to get out and go to games. And this year, I'm planning to make even more memories in 2025. Definitely coming up to Connecticut and New York to watch them play again. I don't think maybe the Big East tournament. We'll see. GameTime is all about togetherness this holiday season, and their new GameTime Picks feature makes it easier than ever to find incredible deals on the best seats. It filters out the fluff, so you're even seeing top-tier tickets at unbeatable prices, whether it's a concert, a comedy show, or a big game. GameTime Picks has you covered. I just checked the GameTime app before this show, and there is absolutely some great seats. I know there's some folks that are going to Indianapolis to watch UConn Butler this weekend. There's super deals on even courtside seats there. Go check it out. You can do that with features like an all-in pricing and the lowest price guarantee. GameTime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. Plus, they've got you covered with event cancellation protection and job loss assurance, so you can buy with confidence. Ready to make the holiday season unforgettable? Download the GameTime app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. That's right, $20 off. Terms may apply, but again, download the GameTime app today and create an account. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege to save. Boom. All right, back with Jeff Lowe of Barstool Sports. I'm your host, Mark Zanetto from Locked On Uconn, talking about the last night's game and what to look forward to. We have Butler this weekend, but let me ask you this question: Is UConn still a Final Four contender in your mind?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I do not think they'd have much of a chance right now against a team like an Auburn, maybe a Tennessee, but that doesn't matter. It's December. So right. Yeah. I think if you ask me that question, if you say, okay, do you feel that same way come February? I hope, but I also think my answer is going to be no. I think 5 minutes last night and only get 3 fouls. What a great step that is, because the foul situation is obviously the biggest nightmare right now for them. That's great. So I think Reed's going to be a monster come February. I think Sampson's going to figure things out. I know you and I went back and forth on Hassan Diarra. There's a lot of things. Yeah. Hassan 11 assists. There's some things that Hassan's doing that are amazing. The end of shot clock stuff is driving me nuts. Though there are some times where he makes some great. The ISO ball stuff. It drives me crazy. It drives me crazy.
I understand that, but I also the one thing I disagree with you on, and I feel like you're saying that I'm making your point on this online last night, but I don't feel like I was, because when Haas is a 5th-year guy, right? So he is the leader on the court, whether we like that or not, right? And he's up there with Alex. And guess what? Between the two of them, if the game's on the line, Haas is going to have the ball in his hands, not because Alex can't do it, but Alex isn't exactly an ISO dribbler or like you can clear out for him. Haas needs to go to the hole more if he's going to try to end the shot clock.
I'm good with that.
But there are instances, and I sent you one last night where essentially it was like 4 seconds on the shot clock. Solo got the ball. He could have easily kept it and been the guy at the end of the shot clock because they were just not running really smooth offense. So when they're not, Haas is taking the game by the neck and saying, all right, I'll be that guy. Do we want him to be all the time? Absolutely not. But he's just it's happening out of circumstance. If it happens a ton, like all the time, every game, 10 times a game, that's where it would be concerning.
Yeah, I guess that's maybe where we don't see full on, which is fair because I totally get what you're saying. There's just a couple tunnel vision moments for him where I see 8 seconds on the clock, and I just think he's like, I'm gonna LeBron this guy, take a step back and shoot a 3. Where I do think I'm like, I'd like to see him attack because for his size, the way he attacks the hole and the way he goes up to the hoop is just he plays so much bigger than his size. Sometimes it's beyond. He had a great moment last night. He drove to the hole and he scored. Where it's so impressive. I did all tournament last year. It's like that stuff. You're like, man, like I don't expect that from the early off. But again, I know he's assuming a role that was taken up by a guy who was very much a vet last year. So we'll see. I am sure. Again, like I just said about Reed, he won't be doing that as much come February, and they'll have a much different mindset come end of shot clock and stuff. Yeah,
I also feel like too, you're starting to see guys like Solo, like you saw it last night. Solo took the game, by the horns last night at the end of the game, and in overtime, he almost made that shot at the buzzer. It was tracking. It looked like it was going to go in. And then obviously in overtime, he played well. He had 22 points. Alex had 20. Terrace had 20. Liam had 14 points. I think 15 points or something like that. I think you're going to see guys like Liam McNeely and Solo Ball, freshman and sophomore, be the two that have the ball at the end of the shot clock more so than Haas as the year goes on, because they're going to demand it, and it's going to be undeniable. Right now, I feel like Liam did that at Gonzaga, but Haas still had a few of those in the Gonzaga game too, where he was just like, I'm the guy right now. And I think McNeely is the go-to guy. I think you're right.
I think we will see that at some point. Yeah,
absolutely. All right, back to the Final Four question. You mentioned a couple teams. Not that I want to dive too much into this, but I'm curious. I don't think there is one team or a group of teams that anyone can point to right now and say like a UConn last year that there's no shot that you're going to beat this team. There's talented teams like Duke is really talented. Auburn's really talented.
That was a weird thing last year. People kept saying that even last year, like, oh, it's wide open. I'm like, is it though? I'm like, I think Purdue and UConn are clearly better.
We knew it wasn't wide open. Even when we played Purdue, it wasn't wide open. So
right, that was weird. That was
so
bizarre.
Take it from guys like us who knew that UConn was here and the rest of college basketball was here. I think everyone's here right now. Of the elite teams, I don't see anyone. You might have Auburn might be like this. I think they're the clear best team in the country. I think Tennessee's up there, but I always challenge whether Rick Barnes is going to do Rick Barnes things in March.
As a guy from Austin, I can tell you he will just do Rick Barnes things. As a guy who watched him up close and personal for years, he will just do Rick Barnes things.
Yeah, no, I said so. And guess what? To a certain extent, I think Bruce Pearl is a great coach, but Bruce Pearl doesn't have a great record in March either. He took which team was it? Was he at Auburn when they almost won the national championship and they lost to?
They kind of got screwed. Yeah,
they got screwed. But yeah, I mean, so he's had one shining moment, but didn't really get over the top. We're the only team outside of Kansas that has a coach and a staff that knows what it's like to do this thing. Like there's no coaches anymore. Like there's no big time coaches anymore. There just isn't.
I'd like a couple teams. I think they look good. I'm impressed with Kentucky. I'm impressed with Pope. Duke has moments, but they're not really impressing me all that much. They had a pretty lackluster game against George Mason the other day, and George Mason's not a bad team by any stretch.
They're good mid-major program,
but there's just some weird things, and I think this is a year with a lot of big name freshmen. Who I think you're going to see Cooper Flagg in a much different spot come February. I think you're going to see Liam McNeely in a much different spot and so on and so forth. I think some of Kansas guys are going to come together better. So that's why I'm not concerned. I was concerned leaving Maui because how can you not be when you've lost 3 in a row? Like you're at some point you got to be like, uh-oh, like this could get bad, and then it didn't. They fixed it. So that was so. I do think it's wide open. There's a lot of things I want to see. My biggest thing, though, and I don't know if you agree with me on this, something in the Mahaney Noel universe has to be figured out. That something needs to happen there for them to, I think, win the national championship. I think Samson Johnson. I think Terrace Reed. I love Yusuf Signor. I think that's having him play all these minutes is. I think that's a godsend for them. I don't want Samson hurt, but man, I think that's going to come back to be a huge plus. He can give great minutes now. Like that's
absolutely. I totally agree with you there. On the Aiden,
it's Noel Mahaney and Mahaney.
Yeah, on the Aiden Ahmad stuff. First off, right, Ahmad has been hurt, so he was a full participant, so he could have played last night. And I think one of the reasons why we didn't see him last night, and is just because first Big East game, it looked like it started to trend in a direction where they're going to lose this game. I don't think they wanted to put him out there because of the lack of experience, and I don't think he would have shied away from the moment. He's a tough kid. He's from Philly. He wants to be out there, obviously. I know his dad really well. We talk pretty regularly. He knows that he's itching to get out there. But they're also preaching patience to these guys. Like there's going to be a moment where they're going to need him, and he's going to perform. And with Aiden, again, I think what they need to figure out with him, and I am not trying to push myself as a better tactician than Dan Hurley. They'll figure this out if they want to do it. If they want to use Aiden off the ball, they'll get something out of him. If they continue to use him on the ball, he's not going to play because the book is out on him. The book is out on him, and I love the kid. He's a great kid, but that's never been his game. Go watch any St. Mary's game. He's coming off of screens. He's probing inside, but he's being freed up. It's kind of like a receiver in motion versus a guy that's on the line. Like just getting that free release to then go create and have freedom and process that way. That to me is his game, and it always has been. He also had a all-American style like European point guard in Marshallonis last year at St. Mary's, who was putting dimes on him so he could hit shots. And they had a really good defense. So he didn't really need to play a ton of defense at St. Mary's. He has to at UConn. So that's part of it too. It's like, can he play off ball and can he guard Big East guards? The answer to the question right now is not yet. I don't know. So yeah, I think Ahmad is going to do that. I think I think the jury's still out on Aiden.
Yeah, I would love to hear, and I don't know if I don't know. Maybe he's talked about it in a presser. I'd love to hear Hurley answer why that hasn't happened yet. It's early. It's 11 games in or 12 games in, because I do think it's not as simple. And I mean this in it's a good thing. It's not as simple. It's not as simple as like just replace him with Ahmad Noel. I think add Ahmad Noel and then move Mahaney somewhere else where he can be utilized because he has to. They have that. I do think that is the biggest key because I think everything else is going to work itself out. I think Ball, I think McNeely are going to have that go to. I think DR is going to really find the perfect lane for himself. I think the bigs are going to figure it out. I think they're going to probably stop fouling as much at some point, which is really their only problem. And I just think that's that one thing where if they figure out the Noel and Mahaney thing and it works out, I think they can win the national championship. Like truly. So I just hope they figure it out. Do they even have to figure it out soon? No, it's still only December. No. But I'd like to see them off ball. That's exactly what you said is exactly right.
I think for me, and I'm not crapping on the Big East because I think we saw last night that the quality of play is going to be tough all year. But I do think they have a luxury of they're going to have some time to figure all this stuff out, as you said, because they're not in a Power 3 conference where they're playing 20 quad 1 games in conference this year, like the Big 12 will or the Big 10 or the SEC. Notice how I didn't say the ACC because that's down big too. I think that's really the key to it is, and I think that's also one of the reasons why there's a lot of UConn fans that don't want to go to the Big 12 because they don't want to have a regular season where they essentially get the crap beat out of them and then they don't have enough down the stretch. I think that's also a valid point. So yeah, I think there's plenty of time. I think they're going to tinker with it. And yeah, I think you're right. I think they definitely have an opportunity. And like I said on a college basketball show last year, if UConn makes the Final Four, they win the national championship. It's like 6 out of 7 times. So
If you tell me
if you're
right
doing
now,
brackets this year, yeah.
If you say, hey, they're going to be in the Elite Eight, what do you think? I said, well, they won the national championship.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they're only boom or bust, but like, I think if they're just not there, they're not going to be there. They'll go out in the first or second round. But I think if they're good enough to get out of that first weekend, that means they're good enough to win enough championship. So,
yeah, I could see a scenario where they, I could see a scenario to counter that where they make the Sweet 16 and lose a tough game. And that to me, that would still be a successful season coming off back-to-back national championships. But yeah, if you let them get to that regional final, I think the rest of the country is going to realize that the reign is going to continue. So,
yep,
I agree. All right, my man. I really appreciate you jumping on. This has been another episode of Locked On Uconn for Barstool Sports. Jeff Lowe. It's Surviving Barstool. Tell us everything else.
Yep, we're 9 episodes in as of tonight, the 19th of December. Taking off 2 weeks because it's the holidays. No one airs new shows on holiday. You can't air on Christmas. Come on. And so after that, we come back with our final 6, and it's worth it. If you like Survivor or anything like that, you will like the show. It's madness. So tune in.
Okay. Anything else? The trivia stuff or
trivia's back in February. But yeah, this is the game right now. Ooh, it's a lot. It's so much fun that I couldn't watch the end of the game last night. If that explains the madness, that should say it all.
All right, go check it out. Surviving Barstool with Jeff Lowe. This has been another episode of Locked On Uconn. You know what it is. Go Huskies. We'll see you on Saturday.